throughout these videos, it's obvious I'm trying to make the implication that we live inside of an atom, inside of God. In which case, then it's quite obvious that the sun is the proton to our atom, and thus the closest relationship we have to the God brain, quote unquote. This diagram depicts something called the circadian rhythm, which is the body's natural means of knowing when to wake up and when to go to sleep. And all of that has to do with the sun and the revolution of Earth around the sun. If you look closer at the circadian rhythm diagram, you'll notice that at 2100 hours at 9 o'clock p.m., melatonin secretion starts. It's actually a synthesis of serotonin, which is built up throughout the day, into melatonin, which goes on in the pineal gland in your brain. So to elaborate a little bit on that process, basically when you're out during the day getting a lot of sun, the photons enter your eyes, obviously it helps you see, you're increasing the amount of serotonin that is in your pineal gland. At nighttime at around 9 o'clock, 2100 hours, it hits a point in your circadian rhythm where it will start transmitting serotonin into melatonin, which helps you sleep. So right there in that process, you've got a lot to do with the sun having to do with all of your behaviors. Serotonin increases wakefulness, it governs a lot of your emotions and various things like that. So it has everything to do with that. There is another process that the sun does influence, and that is photosynthesis, which is an exciting. Okay, right off the bat, I just want to say I want to keep this kind of really easy to understand for pretty much everybody. So I'm not going to go into all the details of photosynthesis. However, basically the basics of it that most of you know is that the sun's photons come into the atmosphere, the plants absorb those photons and store them as energy. So like you see, diet is the relationship between your brain and photosynthesis. After all, you wouldn't be able to think if it weren't for your diet. So how does the photons, or how do the photons go from the plants to your brain? Well, that happens through this system called the nervous system. The nervous system is created out of two parts, the first being neurons. Neurons are what process information that come from your brain. Your brain also uses neurons, and ultimately they are what govern your thought, everything about that, because they are the electrical conduits to everything that you think and do. The other part of the nervous system are glial cells. Glial cells outnumber neurons 10 to 1. They're known as the glue of the nervous system because they surround neurons and hold them in place. They also supply nutrients and oxygen to them, and they basically destroy pathogens and remove dead neurons. So basically, you've got your brain, which is full of neurons, and your nervous system, which is full of neurons. We know that neurons' function or purpose is to transmit information. What kind of information? Neurons store information based on memory. Your memory is based on your 5 senses of sight, smell, touch, hearing, and taste. So you've got your glial cells giving the nutrients you get from the food you eat to your neurons, which are what manage your memories. If your neurons had no energy, you would have no memory. And that energy it has comes from the sun. So your memories originate from the sun, or at least the sun makes it possible for your memories to exist. Well, simply, if we're an atom, then we're in God's body, then he probably has a nervous system too that governs everything as well. We also know that our brains don't manipulate every single atom in our bodies. That would take way too much processing power. So our nervous system is like a hierarchy between the brain and the atoms. Since the neurons in our nervous system operate through memories, then it's easy to surmise that they have a conscience as well. Here is a demonstration of this hierarchy I spoke of, which involves the nervous system. And here, prepare for the presentation. Okay, so the hierarchy starts off in the brain, in the neurons in the brain. And here's a picture of a neuron cell in the brain as compared to the universe. Jeez, coincidence? Keep in mind the brain neurons are exactly what pop the cherry in the chain of command. They're the ones that relate with your five senses right off the bat and start the whole process. From the brain, the signal, with the memories and everything encased in it, travel through the nervous system. Now, each individual cell or neuron in the nervous system passes along this information, and it goes along a certain pathway to go to whatever system in your body is supposed to use the information it needs. There are three main pathways in the nervous system hierarchy. The first is the afferent system, which deals with sensory neurons. Basically, they're the ones that transmit the information from the external stimuli into internal stimuli, which make involuntary muscle movements from unexpected things happening. The second is the afferent system, which deals with motor neurons, which basically deal with deliberate voluntary movements rather than involuntary. Sensory and motor actually interact with each other through the next one. The third one is the relay system, which has to do with relay neurons or interneurons, and basically they just connect motor neurons with sensory neurons, as well as they connect other interneurons with interneurons. So from the nervous system, the information process continues down through the various lower forms in the hierarchy. The circulatory system is one. It embodies the heart, blood, and blood vessels. It moves nutrients, gases, and waste to and from cells, helps fight diseases, and helps stabilize body temperature and pH to maintain a healthy flow of everything to keep us alive. The digestive tract would probably receive its information from the sensory system, where it would sense whether or not we're eating, and then it would just automatically, involuntarily digest your food. So it would send that kind of information basically for you unconsciously, probably consciously for the neurons themselves performing the task. The nutrients, etc., are digested and put into the circulatory system at that point. Basically, the respiratory system is to oxygenate your body for cellular respiration. That's for your metabolism in all the cells of your body. So from there, the cells can use the oxygen to distribute all of the nutrients your body gets from your food and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of think of it as a generator of energy in essence. The next step down in the hierarchy of information goes down to the muscle tissues of each system we just spoke about. The system themselves delegate the information out to the various fascicles, which are groupings of muscle cells, which basically have them act in accordance with each other, so that way they can work together to complete the task at hand. The next step down in the hierarchy are the various molecules inside the nucleus of the cell. Now, the molecule we are in is the Milky Way galaxy inside of our cell, the universe, which is part of God's body. So we're at the bottom of the hierarchy, and the galaxies involved with our particular job are involved with something called cellular respiration, thus the expansion collapsing theory of the universe. Of course, as before, it goes down to the solar system as the atom, etc., 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 where we end up actually being a reflection of the very top of the hierarchy. In essence, it goes from the top to the bottom, echoes back in order to maintain a chain of command and maintain the integrity of the signal on a consistent second-by-second basis throughout time.